Welcome back to episode 2, season 3. Today we are talking about shadowwork. Welcome back.
Welcome back to Bridging Universes. How was your week this week?
How was my week so far? This so far or today? How far was my week? How far was my week?
Oh, how was your week?
How was my week so far? What day is it?
It is today, Thursday.
Thursday. This week has been a bit of a blur so far. Can't really remember so much of it. It just,
Just kept happening.
yeah, I did lots of work. We went to the fire jam last night, which was amazing.
Ooh, that was fun.
We went to the fire jam at Dreamscape. We got to play around with fire on a Wednesday night. It was quite funny.
I can't believe that that's actually your life.
I know.
Like, just a random Wednesday evening. What did you do? Instead of being like, oh, I watched like a series or I chilled, I read a book. We're like, playing with fire. It's a good way of releasing energy.
Yeah.
Playing around.
Yeah, I had a good week so far.
Nice.
So far. A few days left of the week, but yeah. What about you?
I was tired this week. I've been complaining that I was tired. I'm tired for a week now.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had a really beautiful week actually.
Mm.
With a lot of nice new things coming in. New clients, old clients coming back. What else did I do? I taught yoga.
Yeah. Ha! 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 Ha!
Okay, so for the record, you're doing it completely wrong.
Alright, do you want to show me quickly then? Ha! 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 That's better.
I'm actually not really sure what you were trying to do. But every
That's what
time.
happens. When you walk into Atlas sometimes, or anywhere in the Dean's teaching, like, yeah.
I
Ha!
just.
Ha!
No. Like, let me rephrase this when I have my earring in.
What are you doing?
Trying to get my earring in my ear. Ta-da.
Ta-da!
But let me rephrase this. So I teach Kundalini Kriya Yoga, and there sometimes I just like to make people scream. Sometimes I turn a little bit into a drill sergeant, but you have these specific movements and breathing where you breathe in forcefully through the nose, and then you breathe out with a, which is no, that's soft. It has to be like a harsh. Exactly that.
Yeah.
But you
There's
do,
like 20 people doing it at one time.
but you do it with a specific movement. This week, actually, I was a little bit lazy. We did it laying down with like breathing in, the hands go up, breathing down, you tap on the floor and ha. But normally I do like the wood chopping kriya, which is, you can sit like this, the hands go into Venus dog and the hands go up when you breathe in and down with a ha. Just a lot of fun.
Demonstration?
No, that was the demonstration.
Okay. You got nervous.
No, I'm tired. But I make people do that, and then Jack and my friends make fun of me for making people scream.
Yep.
But it's a really nice release for your heart chakra.
Where's my tea? Sorry.
Your tea is next to you.
Nice tea courtesy of Nadine today. What is this tea?
It is ginger hibiscus lime.
Wow.
You good?
Exotic. If you were a tea.
If I were a tea, I know which tea you would be.
What tea would I be?
The tea that I actually don't like.
Which is what?
English breakfast tea.
Oh yeah. English breakfast tea is really hard to get out here in Asia, but it's really nice.
Then why you drink it? Like,
It's so nice.
it's boring.
It's breakfast tea. It's amazing. It's amazing.
I'll have to get used to it when we live in England for a bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay.
Very good.
So, Mr. the Shadow Gentleman,
Yeah.
you want to tell us why you chose this name?
The Shadow Gentleman.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And why we're talking about shadows today?
Yeah, today we're going to talk about shadow. What is shadow? What does it mean? What does shadow work mean? Because the concept gets thrown around, but not many people actually know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I changed my name to the Shadow Gentleman because
Wait, pause. Tell how you did it. It was really fun.
how I did it. Oh,
You
we
were
were out
so
of the house, right?
enthusiastic.
We were out of our old house. There was a party there, no? We had a party.
Yeah, it was the day before we moved into our old house, there was this party. And then
Yeah.
I asked Jack, what is your favorite compliment to receive?
Yeah, and someone said to me, oh, that's true actually. Someone said to me that, oh, it's a nice compliment to be called a gentleman because a gentleman has different traits, right? Like to be a gentleman,
You
you
said
have
that.
manners, you're kind, you're caring, you're strong, you know,
I mean,
yeah,
I think we all have our own perception of gentlemen. Those are
that's
yours.
mine. And yeah, it's a nice compliment to receive. You're a gentleman. It's nice. So then I thought, what kind of work do I do mostly, and what kind of work have I done a lot of? And the thing that I find that comes up quite a bit for me is shadow, gentleman. And the idea is that the gentleman walks through his life confronting his shadow. So this is the shadow gentleman. I like it.
I love it.
I think it's
But
a good one.
it's also just a fun memory to me because he was so enthusiastic for literally 20 minutes. He kept talking about it. It was
Yeah.
amazing. It was really cute.
Yeah, I got excited about it. I was like, oh my God, that's it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to change it. So yeah, so then that changed.
But yeah, shadows.
To shadows.
What are shadows?
So yeah, what is shadow? What is shadow work? Well, to me, we all have parts of ourselves or parts of our personalities, parts of our the way we think that live inside of us in the kind of darkness, right? And every now and then, when it's triggered or when it wants to come out, we have these moments of like, we just get triggered, right?
Mhm.
And it's because of those parts of ourselves that we haven't quite given light to or expressed or made aware.
Are shadows a bad thing?
No, everyone has them. They're not a bad thing. I think actually they're actually one of the keys to our growth. A lot of our growth is shining light on the shadow, right?
And embracing all part of ourselves. I'm not saying that we should all just be really fucking rude, but we do have to embrace like the sides of ourselves that we don't like so much.
Yeah, because it's us, right?
It's us.
We can't push it away.
A big mesh of like the good, the bad, the ugly. And I feel like there's a lot of growth in accepting and sending love and compassion to all forms of us instead of like always wanting to improve. I actually said this to my client this morning as well, where I was like, I feel like a big part of healing is also realizing that healing is not the same as living, and that in the end, even though we're really working on maybe healing, we have to live. We cannot just always be improving ourselves because we're like a work in progress for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
So we better start enjoying being this work in progress, being as respectful and loving and kind towards everyone as we can, and go with that. Because if we push away the shadows or we're ashamed of them or we're like, no, I cannot be bad, like I cannot be too much, then you're never gonna get further. Whereas if you allow yourself to be everything, it will kind of like balance it out and even out and you can own up to it. And I think that for me, shadows is also a big part of shadows is owning up to the fact that you fucked up.
Yeah.
Owning up to the fact that what you did maybe wasn't right. And not only coming with explanations, but also just being like, hey, I did this wrong and I'm so sorry. And I think that that is something I really respect in people in general. Like, we all make mistakes, but it's the moment where you come with like a million excuses of why you make these mistakes and why it's okay that I'm like, no. If you make a mistake, own up to it and be like, I made a mistake. It's really bad and I'm sorry. And I will do my best to make up for it, or I will do my best to like learn from it. But for right now, I did make a mistake.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make me a monster. I just made a mistake. And that takes away so much of like the baggage of having to be good.
Yeah. I think shadow doesn't always have to be something you've done wrong either. It can just be like a part of yourself that you don't really like. Like it could be like you're really cautious of the way you talk to people, or the way that you feel like you come across, or like you can be very self-conscious about how you come across to other people. Like that's an element of your shadow that is making itself aware that you have like, you know, something deeper down that needs to be dealt with. So it can be anything really that you don't really particularly like about yourself, or that you push away so much that you end up really resenting yourself because you actually don't accept yourself, because like you said, there's so many things that every single person has, like shadow elements of themselves, which they don't like. And we think that when we're going through that we're the only person that actually does that.
That it doesn't have to be something that you did wrong. It can be something that you just don't like about yourself.
Yeah. And that for me is why you can start to resent yourself, right?
Yeah.
And you get to a point where you don't like yourself so much that you literally just don't express yourself at all.
Mm-hmm.
So in my case, for years and years and years, I never looked into why I had reactions against certain things, why I would act in certain ways, why I didn't like the way that I looked or didn't like the way that you know,
You want to give an example?
well, something like, yeah, like my confidence maybe. Like I wasn't a very confident person because I didn't believe that I was good enough. I didn't believe that I was cool enough. I didn't believe that I was good looking enough, all these things. And those are all parts of your shadow that the reason they are there is because there's things that haven't been dealt with in the past, or there's things that you think about yourself which just aren't true, but you believe them. So confronting your shadow for me has been the only way to be able to move through a lot of these things is to say, I see that part of myself. I understand that part of myself is there, but not pushing it away and just understanding that that's how it is. And that if I want to give it awareness, which is in my opinion what works, if you give it awareness and you look into it, like where does it come from? Why do I feel like that? Why do I feel like this when this comes up? By doing that and looking into it, that's what I would call shadow work, because you're shining light, and the light is obviously the parts of ourselves that we love, and that kind of side, and then dark is the shadow. We're shining light on the shadow, which then brings it into the light. So then by doing that, we then can give it awareness and go accept it and be like, this is just who I am. I just struggle with this, and that's okay. And it's not something that needs to be fixed, and it's not something that means I'm broken. It just means that that's how it is. And that's the reason why I do that. And the more understanding you have as to your behavior around certain things, that is, in my opinion, one of the best ways to, like I said, come to terms with that's just who you are, and that's okay. But the more you push them away and the more you suppress them by, lots of people use drugs, especially men, they overwork, they, escape those feelings and end up in addiction. They end up in abusive behavior. They end up in all sorts of situations they don't need to be in, and situations that they've put themselves in by just ignoring the fact that, just pushing the shadow parts away all the time.
I think for women, it also comes really kind of like you have this term good girl syndrome, and it's like a lot of women have been told ever since they were little, like, don't be too much, don't be too emotional, don't be too enthusiastic, like, you cannot be too fat, you cannot be too thin, and like all of these pressures kind of like tells you have to be good. And then by having to be good, you start pushing away and pushing down all the things that you or society doesn't label as good. For example, rage is a really beautiful example where a lot of people see rage as a really big shadow because you have all this anger and like power inside of you. Whereas rage can be, I wrote a book because of rage. Like, that was not because I was just so happy and loving. I was like, I'm really fucking angry and I'm gonna make something beautiful out of it. And by embracing that rage and allowing it to move through you instead of pushing it away, it becomes power and it becomes strength.
Power.
In that like good girl syndrome, the way I said it is a lot of women doing a lot of things that they don't want to do and then being upset at another person. For example, women back in the days, women used to learn like, okay, if your husband wants to have sex with you, then you have sex because you're married. So that's part of it, you know? And it's only now that people are learning like, wait, but I am allowed to say no, and that doesn't have to be like a big thing. But in that situation where women used to have like sex when they didn't really desire it, that would be kind of like part of playing the good girl. But then in their shadow or in the parts they're not looking at, they were building up all this resentment and all this anger and really negative shame and guilt feelings about themselves because they are constantly doing something that they don't want to do. And if you keep doing that, like their resentment builds up and maybe they become like super passive aggressive, or they're like trying to still be a good girl, but then at the same time, they're just really rude because they're like, I don't like this person. And that is also kind of like a dynamic where you create a shadow on both sides, which if you would have the conversation, it wouldn't happen. And if you would learn that you're allowed to be all of you, not just like the picture perfect version of you, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Because you get to actually be alive. And in a way, I think that is also something that both of us have been really learning last year, where you can even see it in like our businesses and in everything. Like the more you embrace yourself and the more you learn to just express yourself in the way you are instead of the way you think people want you to be or you think is good, the more successful you become and the more you're going to be able to connect. Because for me, for example, in our relationship, it's easier for me to actually connect with you and grow with you if you come up to me and you're like, hey, I have these feelings and they're making me do this and this, and that's just the way it is. Then, or vice versa, like I do that as well. And then we can actually have a conversation and go from there instead of where
Suppression rather than suppressing.
I was just thinking of an example. Like maybe if I would feel like I was getting fat and I would not feel comfortable in my body, which I'm not, but I'm just using it as an easy example. And I would like not be telling that to you, but I would just constantly be dealing with it. Maybe like eating in a different way and like
or looking for compliments,
yeah,
but then not getting them, and then being like, he must think what I think. He must think that I must be fat because he's not saying I'm not fat. So it's like that's the shadow talking, and like you giving it awareness in terms of you coming to me and being like, hey, I feel like this, and I'm starting to feel like I'm not good enough, or I'm feeling fat, or I'm feeling this. At least then you're giving awareness to it, to the point where I'm not then going to, I want to know how you're feeling, and two, I'm not gonna, I don't know, make you feel what.
it creates like a dynamic in which we can just have the conversation. Whereas if I wouldn't be like, hey, I noticed that I'm seeing this in my body and I'm feeling this, then I would be having all of these thoughts and things in my brain, and then maybe we would get into a fight about a completely different subject because it's just fuel to the fire, and it's like a balloon that like gets more and more and more, and maybe I haven't even brought it up and I'm feeling like, oh, but he's thinking that I'm getting fat, and then no, and in my brain it's a really big thing, whereas you maybe didn't even notice. And you're like, and then you get one of those discussions where I'm like and you're like, what are you even talking about? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And by just shining that light on it and not even trying to fix it or making it more beautiful, but just like, hey, this is where I'm at. And it's like the good, the bad, the ugly all together. And it's a beautiful mix match of everything. It's so much easier to live, and it's so much easier to connect with people, but also so much easier to just create a life for yourself or work in your business because you are willing to be aware of everything that is going on. Practice to do it with your shadow.
I think it's become a thing now where I kind of automatically do it. Whereas, like, say, like something, I don't know, I'm sitting somewhere and this thought comes up. Okay, maybe I didn't do so much work, all right, for that day. Maybe in my head I think, maybe other people will see me and think that I'm not working hard or something like that, right? So what I would do is when I feel that emotion or when I feel that, because with the shadow sometimes it's always this like questioning kind of like, why am I feeling that? Or sometimes it's just, it could be many things actually. It can be like a thud, like it can be like like you feel it somewhere. It can be like a wave of low emotion. It can be sadness. It can be, different emotions. But what I do is try to question, firstly, how I'm feeling about it. Like, what is it making me feel? Do I feel anxious? Do I feel upset? Do I feel low energy? Do I, all of these kind of things. Once I've worked out how it's made me feel, then I then tend to look at, right, okay, what in the past may have happened that is making me think like that, or is making me like think like that, making me, yeah. So then once I try to do that, I normally, if it carries on, normally that works. If I try to think back and go, oh, that's where someone said that before about me, and that's okay because that's their opinion and that's that. And most of the time, I try to affirm whatever it is that is being triggered or something. I try to affirm that like within myself. So if it's something to do with my worth or something to do tied towards how good I am at something or something like that, then I tend to just say to myself that I am doing a good job and I am doing enough and I am doing what I can do and I'm doing my best, and just telling myself it's okay and it's not something to be ashamed of. It's not something to push away, and usually that helps.
I actually have a good example now that you're talking. A few days ago, we went to watch the sunset and we went to a viewpoint and we had a really good time. And then we were talking about the fact that I will be going to India soon and work and money and bills and all the life things. And I just got anxious because I was like, oh shit, like I have to pay for my flights, I have to pay for renting, I have to and I have to pay my accountant and I have to do all these things. And yeah, sometimes finances can be something where you're like, oh no. And I noticed that in myself, and you were trying to comfort me by telling me, oh, it's all gonna be okay. And normally I would probably be the one saying, oh, it's all gonna be okay. But in that moment, my brain was just like, it's not working. Oh my God. And we had that conversation, but like, I just noticed in myself that I wasn't even fully capable of listening to you. So I literally said, okay, can I have 5 minutes? And in those 5 minutes, I just sat down and I allowed myself to think all the stupid things that were there. So instead of being like, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay, and kind of like pushing it away, I just sat there and I was like, okay, everything's going to go to shit. What now? And then I laughed at myself.
Yeah.
And I was like,
by just allowing the thoughts to be there.
yeah. And I literally started laughing at some point. I was like, one, it's not all going to go to shit. And two, even if it would happen, I would be fine. And just by doing that, I came back up. And because the parking lot was higher than where I was sitting. And I felt fine. We had a beautiful, nice evening.
Yeah.
And I think those things, like just allowing it to be there instead of trying to fix it, is, for me, something that really helps. Because if I allow myself to have these negative thoughts and to have this anxiety or whatever it is, it kind of like ebbs away. It's as if it's something that's like trying to get your attention, you know, and the more you don't ignore it, the more it's gonna and then you give it attention and it's kind of like, okay, and it's gone.
I think there's two good examples of how you can, because something it really depends. Like, I guess if you're someone that wants to look into those kinds of things, then just like sitting there and accepting it is, you know, me, I would just always try to, I mean, there's times surely when I already know where the shadow's talking. I already know why it's talking. So then those circumstances are the ones where I'm just like, okay, just let whatever the fuck is coming into my mind right now. Which is normally just, like you said, a load of jargon and stuff that isn't true and stuff that you've made up in your head and stuff that probably isn't going to happen. That's what happens for me. I'm just like,
I think I just allow it to be there because, just like you, I've been trying to understand it for so long that, like, if I have these thoughts and like I let it be there and then I laugh about it and then I know and I understand why it's there.
Yeah.
And I can literally even like look back and be like, oh, where did this trigger come from? And I'm like, oh, this isn't this. Like this comment, this email, this text, or whatever it is, you know? And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. How do you think that, in what ways do you think shadow will show itself without you knowing?
I feel like it's a lot in our like subconscious behavior. Your first initial responses or emotions, the way like you kind of react to the world without thinking about it. I feel like that is really a moment where it comes up. So that can be like giving someone a funny look, having like a little bit of a judgment in yourself before you even think about it. And also just in really, I think for me as well, I notice it as someone in a female body or a lunar-based body. I notice, like, when I start noticing these thoughts, I'm like, oh, where am I in my cycle? And I'm like, I'm at the end of my cycle. That makes sense. And then it's also easier to, like, move through it because it's just also the part of my cycle where I'm in. That's the difference, I think, between male and female bodies, where we have a different hormone system. And when we're in luteal, so like in the last bit of our cycle after ovulation, you just get a little bit more grumpy, you get more judgmental, and you're like, meh.
Oh, yeah.
Shut up.
No, I'm joking. Shadow work is the practice of consciously exploring the parts of yourself that you've repressed, denied, or learned to hide. Often traits, emotions, or desires you were taught were unacceptable and wrong. These shadow aspects usually form in childhood as a way to gain love, to gain safety or belonging. By bringing them into awareness with compassion, shadow work helps you reclaim lost parts of yourself, reduce unconscious patterns, and live with more authenticity and wholeness. What part of ourselves do we usually push into the shadow, and how do they end up running our lives when we don't face them? Great for discussing triggers, projections, and repeating relationship patterns.
I have an example actually that I want to do based on my book.
The book. The book.
As someone who has been sexually abused, I was so much like, oh, but I'm a victim. And then to realize, like, wait, but the moment I like want to have sex with this person and he doesn't want to have sex with me and I feel rejected and I like feel upset, that is a moment where I have to realize, like, oh, wait, but that is my problem. And that is kind of like me having to deal with, even if I've been a victim, I can also be a perpetrator. So that shadow is inside of me as well. And I think for me, making peace with both sides made me capable of moving on in a way and understand it way more. So it's kind of like if when I didn't fully understand that I could be a perpetrator as well, there was a lot of anger because you can kind of like portray the other person as the devil and as a monster and they're terrible. And then you make that bigger and bigger and bigger. Whereas where you're capable of acknowledging like everyone can be that, it could have been me who made those mistakes. It kind of like, it doesn't take away the weight of the situation, but it does give me way more mental peace to be like, oh, I understand. And I still don't want to be in the same room as this person. And I still absolutely do not agree. And I think you made a terrible mistake, which can have consequences, but you're not a monster. Like, I have a good question.
Go for it.
When did your shadow mostly come up in like our relationship? Like, are there examples of moments where your shadow really came up and you were like,
I think when we decided to actually become a couple, I think I spoke to you about this yesterday.
yeah, I was like, we spoke about this yesterday.
Yeah, I was saying how when we decided to be a couple
Which, by the way, took us 3 days.
Yeah, 3 days, yeah. Because we had to think about it and we were like, oh, we'll have this conversation tomorrow, or we'll go think about it and we'll have a conversation tomorrow. But I think when that was happening, I think there were parts of me that was like questioning whether I actually was able to give a relationship what it deserves at that point in my life, you know? I think for so many times I've had relationships and they broke down and they for 6 months are great and then they end up being like catastrophe, which was partly down to me in most of the relationships and the partner at the time. It was like mixed 50-50.
It's always.
But yeah, I'm never going to say I was a saint. Definitely had a lot of shadow at that time, which I was running from, that I wasn't integrating, that I wasn't working through. But yeah, I think there was a point where I was questioning, can I actually give you what it is that you need? Like, am I going to be able to give you the commitment? Am I going to be able to fulfill all of your needs, right? And it's not to say that I need to fulfill your needs. It's just that I think as men, we have this like expectation to, you know, be supportive and be providing and it's quite a lot of weight sometimes for men to carry. So I feel like at the time where I had got to know you and I'd realised that I didn't want to end up in a situation again where I was not enjoying myself in the relationship or not happy, I didn't want to potentially put you in that position. So then I could then for a question myself like, oh, am I actually ready for this? And I guess that's the shadow inside of me thinking, this has happened before, you know, I'm worried that, you know, I'm not going to be able to, I don't know, do the washing up enough. I'm not going to be able to, you know, these kinds of things. So I guess that was the very start. And I think it's important to note that in relationships, you're going to feel your shadow a lot because the person is constantly mirroring to you parts of yourself that you haven't yet shone light on, or you haven't yet loved, or you haven't yet accepted. And I feel like deep relationships or deep connections often show you more of your shadow than just having a surface level kind of thing.
And I feel like it also comes with a really raw version of yourself, you know, and the more open and honest you are, like the more closer you become, the more you're gonna see parts of yourself that either you haven't seen for a very long time or you really don't want to see. And I think that that is kind of like the strength of a relationship. It's kind of the strength of a relationship, but it's also the hard part because you are gonna make mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, you're human, you're alive. You are gonna make mistakes. You are gonna make the other person sometimes upset. And the other person is sometimes gonna make you upset. And then there are gonna be maybe desires that don't fully match. And there are gonna be situations in which you're not perfectly aligned because you still have to have those conversations. And I think that allowing those things to come up without judging them is the only way to fully commit to a relationship.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of committing to facing yourself constantly. Because if you're single, it's way easier to be like, oh, I'm gonna distract myself and I'm not gonna deal with these stuff.
Yeah.
But when
I can't do that now. Like, I can't. Like, shadow comes up, something comes up, and if I don't say it or act on it or do something about it, I can sit with it, but only for so long before it needs to like come out in vocalization or come out in like, you know, like it needs to do something needs to come out. So hence linking back to Shadow Gentleman, I think for the last at least 4 years, 5 years, I've been confronting those parts of myself. And sure enough, sometimes it's taken longer for me to talk about them or longer for me to work through it. But the deeper you go, I actually spoke to Rico yesterday and gave him like a really cool analogy. And it was that when we are children, we develop these like wounds, right? We develop like these parts of ourselves that we don't like, or maybe we were told off as a kid for being too hyper, or we were told off not being smart enough, or like you were told in school that you were stupid or that you would never account to anything, you know? So then you carry this like innate kind of feeling of like, I'm fucking stupid, right? So then what happens over time is when people like, every time you might get older and you go and play football and someone says to you, oh, you're shit in that position, like you can't play football, it's pointless, you know? Like then you're gonna add another layer onto that, like not being good enough or not being smart enough. And like you constantly add layers all of the time. Throughout your whole life, you're gonna have like so many layers of like shadow that's on top of each other. And I think it's about just releasing those layers and like peeling off the layers, you know, until you get back to that core part, which is more or less, you know, when we get to like, I'm not good enough, I'm not safe, I'm not, these kind of core wounds which we have as children, which everybody fucking has.
Yeah.
You know, people claim to be securely attached. I don't believe that people can be fully securely attached. I think there's always some sway of anxious or avoidant or dismissive. There's like so many different, I feel like being completely secure is like, I don't know if that's possible. People work towards it, and I think we're all working towards it.
In a balance, in a way. Like,
Balance, yeah.
you can get in a balance, but a balance is a balance because sometimes you shoot out of line and then you learn and then grow. Because if you would always be in balance, you would be like this. And in the end, all of us want to go like this. How do you go like this if your energy doesn't just go like this? Sometimes it has to be and then you come back, you know?
I'll ask you the same question. When has your shadow been triggered the most? Or in our relationship? Not necessarily, it doesn't need to be me, because it's not me. It's the relationship, or it's you. When that comes down to when you understand it, really, it is just you. It's not me. But yeah, what would you say is one of the things that you found come up the most, or?
I think it's not really something that comes up the most, but it's more something that like gradually changed. And that we spoke about it a few weeks ago where I was like, yeah, but I now understand that if you say, oh, we'll see what happens, that includes me. Where for a really long time, like a part of me was always just waiting for the moment where you were going to be like, no, I'm going to be by myself because I'm so much better by myself. Bye. So like every time we would have.
Are you talking about like with us being in a relationship? Because I didn't give you like a definite answer.
No, can I finish? It's not even you giving a definite answer. It was me kind of seeking that validation of like, I'm only gonna be really good enough if he actually chooses me. Realizing that you do choose me by being like, oh yeah, if I say we'll see, that means that it's gonna be you and me. But I could only have that realization when I realized like, that I feel good enough in myself and I feel secure enough to be in a relationship in general. And I would not have these thoughts of like, okay, I have to leave. And I also said it the other way around, where I was like, I remember we were having a little bit of a harder time, and I really struggled with the fact, and it sounds so stupid, that normally in other relationships I would have a list of stuff with reasons why I would be better off alone. And that was my comfort zone. And then I was talking about you, not about you, but about the situation, and I realized like, well, I actually really do love this person, and I do really want to be with this person. And I don't have a list of like, this is why I would be better off alone, so I don't care. Like, I realized, oh wait, I actually care.
Mhm.
And that was for me such a vulnerable moment. And that was kind of like, I was almost trying to come up with a list of reasons why I should not be with you and why it's unhealthy, because that's my comfort zone. And then not having that made me feel so vulnerable and made me feel like, oh wow. So I think that is really a big shadow coming up of like, I was so used to being in toxic dynamics that whenever I would think about it, I would have reasons to leave. And whenever I would like talk about it with my friends, they would have reasons to tell me why I should leave as well. And then not having that, I noticed in myself almost trying to make them up because that felt safe, you know?
Yeah.
And not having it made me feel really vulnerable, which was an interesting one.
Mm-hmm. How can traits we judge in others be a mirror to our own unhealed shadow? This is one of the main indicators of shadow, right? If you can go to, if you, someone does something, right, and it just really pisses you off, like it really, really annoys you, right? Happens all the time here in Pi. But actually, being annoyed and having anger and having frustration and having like, oh, I don't like the way that person did that, actually is mirroring something within inside of you that you don't like about yourself, right? Because and I have a hard time with it sometimes because I see some people and I'm like, really don't like being around you, or I really don't feel comfortable around you, and knowing that it's not them, it's actually me that is making myself feel uncomfortable around them because of the shadow, you know, is sometimes really hard to comprehend. That doesn't mean I have to force myself to be around that person. Doesn't mean I have to, you know, accept that person wholly. It just means that I need to look internally to why that's mirroring.
Why it's triggering you. So
Why it's triggering me, yeah.
Not just be like, oh, I don't like you. Okay.
Yeah. So I think we covered that. Example, yesterday I went for some food at one of my friend's house. One of my friend's house, my friend's new restaurant. And I went there and I went to help out because they needed people for a photo shoot and such and such. So I went to help out, ate some amazing food, and then kind of I needed to go and everyone was talking and stuff. And I was like, right, see you later, everyone. And like everyone ignored me. And then I was kind of stood there like, and then I went to one of my friends and was like, see you later. And she went, yeah, bye. And I was like, now I instantly in my head thought, fuck you. I've just come to help you and been here for you. Yeah, and you can't even say bye to me. That's the shadow that came up, right? You can't even say bye to me. And the reason why that is because one, I have expectation that if you do something like that for someone that you would say bye, right? And also that I feel like I'm important enough that when I leave, you should say goodbye, you know? Which is just like, and in the end I stood there and when it came up, and then I got on my bike and I was just like, why am I bothered about that? Like, it doesn't matter. And I was just like, just go. Like, you don't have to, they don't have to say bye. You don't need to be, you know that she appreciates what you do. You know that my friend appreciates. So why am I thinking that I'm not important or I'm not enough because you didn't say bye to me? So that is a good example of shadow, that way it just pops up and you can just give it awareness and just, this time I was just like, this is just silly noise in my head, you know, like don't need to be there. So I think when something comes up, when you feel a shadow, you can write it down. Like write down what it is you're feeling, how you're feeling in your body, and the thoughts that are coming up. Then you can look further into it, into where those thoughts come from. Maybe you can sit and meditate on it for 5 to 10 minutes on the things you've written down, or just on how you're feeling, and listen to what comes up. Listen to what comes into your mind, and just try to say that it's okay. Like, and you can work through it by going back in time and looking at where those things may have come from, or situations that may have mirrored the same thing. You can look back, because the one trigger can happen, doesn't have to be from the same thing. Like, you could say something to me and I could get triggered by it, and it will trigger this certain thing, but then someone else can just do something. Maybe they push past me and like, or don't hold the door, something like that, and it would trigger the same thing. So like, there'll be multiple situations where that's happened, and by looking back into your past at situations where that could have occurred, and where you may have started to tell yourself, I'm not good enough, or I'm not this, or I'm not that, you can then, like I said, give it awareness. That would be my go-to. Or sort out someone that is a practitioner that does shadow work, or do that to help you through it.
Sounds like a great idea.
Or what Nadine said, you can sit and just allow it to be there, because a lot of the time, if we can regulate ourselves during those moments, then it kind of quiets the noise down.
It's like, no, okay, bye.
Yeah, when you get triggered or the shadow comes up, it might be like anxious and, oh fuck, I'm not good enough, and this person's this and I'm that, and it, constant. If you just sit with it, if you have the patience and you are able to sit with it, sometimes when people get triggered, they have panic attacks. You're unable to sit and to think at that time, so it reacts differently to people in different ways. But yeah,
okay.
It's all okay. Everything's okay. We're all just reflections of each other, walking around on a big rock, floating in space,
doing some weird stuff called light.
Yeah, and we're just light. Basically, we're the light, and the space is the dark. We're just light beings. If aliens came to this planet, right? They probably wouldn't. They probably, but they definitely are here. But if they came and people came from outside of the planet, from far away, right? They probably wouldn't even see like people. They would just see like flashes of light happening on the planet.
A beautiful little life.
Yeah, beautiful life we have. So that's shadow work, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you for listening, and have a great day.